Senator-elect Scott Brown was on Capitol Hill yesterday making the rounds. Take a listen to what he had to say.
I think me being here will hopefully bring a sense of transparency and good government back, and just create debate. And I think that's what the people really want.
Ducking into the car, one of those great photo ops that you want to avoid when you're a United States Senator. We're joined now from the Washington Post by Dan Balz, the chief political correspondent and the unparalleled mind of politics that is Dan Balz. And we're going to ask you to just take stock of this week because it's been an extraordinary week. What is the Sunday story when you look back at all of the series of events that have happened over the week from Massachusetts and healthcare and everything else? What's the big takeaway?
Well, I think the takeaway, is twofold. One is what caused this, and second, what does the Obama administration do about it? We're continuing to sort of pour through what happened up there. We have a new poll that we're going to have out later today, a poll that we took over the last 2 nights in Massachusetts. It's got a lot of interesting stuff in it about why people voted the way they did. That's part of it, to try to better understand what is it about this anger that's out there. How is it focused on the Obama administration? How is it focused elsewhere? But I think the big question, since this is, next week is State of the Union week, is how does the President of the United States respond to this? We are getting some hints that he certainly wants to talk about things in a more populist way, but populism has never been exactly the right suit of clothes for Barack Obama. So we are awaiting the State of the Union with great interest.
Dan, I want to get a sense from you. Was this the toughest political week that President Obama has had since he's been president?
Well, it's hard to imagine a tougher week when you lose the seat that Ted Kennedy had for 40-plus years, and that much of it is aimed certainly at what's going on in Washington. I mean, there has been, as you guys know, a significant shift over the last year. If you look at what has happened to the president, it was summed up this week. I mean, there is continued dissatisfaction, and much more dissatisfaction with the state of the country today than there was after his first 100 days. There is a shift away from him among independent voters. There is a shift away from him and the Democrats among white voters and white working class voters. Those are all things that he's got to deal with. And so it all came together this week. I mean, I think we have seen it building over a number of months. We saw it in New Jersey and Virginia in November. We've seen it elsewhere. But I think that the seismic shock of the Scott Brown election is what brought it all home.
And Dan, what does this do to the 2010 landscape? Clearly Democrats knew it was going to be very difficult, but how different is the playing field now? Do Democrats just have to be worried about defending just about every seat they have?
Well, you would have to say that if Massachusetts is in play, most states are going to be in play. That begs the question of the quality of campaigns that Democratic candidates will be able to wage. Certainly Martha Coakley did not run an effective campaign in Massachusetts. Had she done so, had you had a different candidate, perhaps the Democrats would still hold that seat. But I think we have known for the past couple of months that 2010 was going to be more difficult. I think this now says across the board, the Democrats are truly on the defensive and will need to do something to kind of change the overall climate in order to prevent some very major losses.
But speaking of that, Dan, it seems like the climate is not going to change all that quickly if indeed the White House is still trying to push through to get a health care bill done. We hear he wants to shift to this populist rhetoric. He wants to talk about jobs, and yet we know Congress doesn't work that quickly. So we're going to be here for at least a few more weeks, right, trying to figure out from the White House perspective how they get this health care bill done. That can't be welcome news to Democrats.
Well, there's two problems, David. I think one is how quickly will the economy and particularly the unemployment rate turn around? I mean, the White House, I think, properly says that much of the dissatisfaction in the country is a direct result of the state of the economy. They've got to turn that around. But you're right, the health care bill is still sitting out there, and the longer it does, the more a problem it becomes. And
there's still no clear path forward. I mean, to be perfectly honest about that, we just don't know what Democrats don't know what they're going to do next with health care. Is that right?
Well, I don't think they have a good answer, frankly. I mean, their hope was perhaps pass the Senate bill in the House and move it quickly, but that died yesterday when Speaker Pelosi said she doesn't have the votes. Now they've got to go back and rethink this. So the question is, do they scale back? Is there a way to do a smaller bill, a simpler bill? Can they get more Republican votes? Are the Republicans prepared to give some votes? We don't see at this point from anything we're hearing that they've got a path forward.
All right, Dan Balz from the Washington Post will let you get back to writing that Sunday story.
Thank you, Dan. One of the true giants in political journalism. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We want to make sure you tune in on Sunday to This Week. Terry Moran will be anchoring the broadcast. His guest, White House advisor, Senior Advisor David Axelrod. Then it will be followed by Democratic Senate Campaign Committee Chair Bob Menendez and Republican Senator Jim DeMint.
Can't miss TV.
Can't
We'll
miss
love it.
TV.
We'll
Click
love
us
it.
on again next week.
Twitter.com/TheNote. If you like my new background, let me know. If you don't let me know.
Rockin'.
Rockin'.